And you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories.
Thank you for watching the Citizens Report. My name is William Donahue. For today's show, that clip that you just heard in the intro was a clip of Donald Trump speaking, and he was talking about the auto industry, explaining that his policy is going to be tariffs on foreign cars. He's going to place tariffs on the foreign cars to bring manufacturing back to the United States, creating more jobs and strengthening our country's economy. So, for the first section, I have Trump PSYOP. I called it that because the media is taking the context of him saying it's going to be a bloodbath, and they've clipped it out and said, or they've clipped it out to the part where he says, if I don't win the election, there's going to be a bloodbath in the country, or something along those lines. So the context of it was there's going to be a bloodbath in the auto industry with the plants being built in Mexico, being built in China, and our manufacturing going away. Or if he gets in, the change that's going to happen, and the electric vehicles are being rejected, and companies aren't building them anymore. Things of that nature. So it's a metaphor. The bloodbath is a metaphor. So Biden-Harris spokesperson James Singer said in a statement Saturday, "This is who Trump is. He wants another January 6th, but the American people are going to give him another electoral defeat this November because they continue to reject his extremism, his affection for violence, and his thirst for revenge." So they're saying that he's calling for a political bloodbath or some sort of civil war, which is totally not what he was talking about. So that's that article. This article I printed off because I thought the headline covered the thing more fairly and tried to set the record straight about what he said. So this headline, social media captures full context of Trump's bloodbath comment. So they kind of correct the record in the article, but on the side of the website there was all these ads for other articles. So that's what I'm going to read to you. ABP Live. Breaking news. Donald Trump warns of bloodbath if he doesn't get elected. Today. Trump says there will be bloodbath if he isn't reelected. The Daily Mail. Trump campaigns and warns there will be bloodbath if he loses. Daily Motion. Trump warns of bloodbath for America if not reelected in 2024 election. So you can see how they've completely taken what he said fully out of context. Now this is an article, WEF, World Economic Forum, demands governments make concerted effort to silence critics. This is a quote from, this is a paraphrase of Klaus Schwab's statement. Klaus Schwab's organization is now insisting that global governments, media, tech companies, and civil society must ramp up efforts for the anti-disinformation campaign. So, is it a conspiracy theory to think that the World Economic Forum, who passes policy down to the governments of the world, would have some sort of effect for them to for them to spin Donald Trump's statement in this way. The reason I say that is because the World Economic Forum's policy is carbon neutral or zero carbon emissions. They push all kinds of they push all kinds of climate restrictions. Basically, the outcome of what they do places tons of regulations on the United States emissions standards. So there's not very many standards at all on Chinese manufacturing, Mexican, any third world countries manufacturing is barely regulated, but ours is regulated through the roof because of global regulations and restrictions, and we impose our own high standards of regulations. So even without them, we have high enough standards based on our own regulations that supersede what they even ask us to do. But they want more, so they're demanding that governments make a concerted effort to silence critics. Now, Donald Trump is over here trying to promote the automotive industry, which is rejecting electric vehicles. They're stopping manufacturing electric vehicles, and he's promoting American manufacturing and American gasoline production. So it only makes sense that our government, who works with the World Economic Forum, would be doing what they want to make a concerted effort to silence critics. So my point is a conspiracy theory to think that. I guess to assume, because there's no written thing saying, hey, Trump said bloodbath, spin it like this, and say it a certain way so people think that he's talking about politics. You can't come to that conclusion, but it just is common sense that if I said my house rules are you have to take your shoes off, and then my wife tells you to take your shoes off, is it a conspiracy theory to think that she would be doing that because that's my rule? Or is it just the rules of the house? I guess that's kind of a bad analogy, but it makes sense. So they're the global organization, the single government is going to enforce the rules of the collective. And you don't need to see that I told my wife that. You just know that that's how it goes around here. So breaking, and that'll come back into play in a little bit when I talk about the Great Replacement theory. So breaking. Judge rules corrupt Georgia DA Fani Willis to remain on Trump case. So this just goes with this because basically the judge in the case donated to Fani Willis's campaign. Fani Willis has her own things. I think that they were trying to say that I don't want to be wrong, so I won't even go there, but she's got her own things, and then also she slept with one of her coworkers, and she went on trips with him, and I think that they were saying that she misused funds, but I don't want to be wrong. So basically, my point is, she perjured herself in testimony, perjured herself that she never had a relationship with the coworker. Then the judge who donated to her campaign rules that because it came out and there was pushback that she had this conflict of interest, that one of the two of them, her or the coworker, would have to get off of the case, but the case could remain. So all these layers of conflicts of interest are what caused Trump to ask for dismissal of the case. So far, just based on the grounds of evidence alone, I think multiple charges have been already dropped from the case, and then this conflict of interest came up, but they're going to keep the case going, and they're still going to allow her to have perjured herself and remain on the case, and also to not get any punishment for perjuring herself. So that's just goes into the whole thing, because in any normal situation, this wouldn't be acceptable unless you were trying to attack somebody and take them down, like end their whole career. So the next section I have is illegal immigration. This here, replacement migration. So this is just the cover page of a very large document that was put out by the Population Division of the Department, or the Population Division, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the United Nations Secretariat. Replacement migration. So a summary of this is basically saying that certain countries who become wealthy get an older population that then needs to be stimulated with spurts of people from the third world countries to even the playing field out on a global level, and to basically, they're looking at it not as to benefit one country, but to benefit the entire globe. Which sounds good if it didn't take away the earnings of people who worked hard for the things that they have. So basically, this replacement migration, pretty sure it was Aaron Rodgers who did a podcast and said that this was driving the illegal immigration problem. The media then turned around and said that this doesn't even exist, that this is anti-Semitic theory that people came up with. It's a real UN document. You can go to their website and read the whole thing if you want to. You could go to the citizensreport.com. Under the reports tab, there is a link to the document so that you can have easy access to read it. I did not write it or have any sort of edits to the document. It's true to exactly what it is. So you can find it on there, or you can just go to the UN website and see it yourself, because that's where I got it from to put it on the website anyway. So this is not a fake made up thing. So that's where the Trump thing that I said about them silencing him being a conspiracy theory, there's no proof that it happened, but the proof is just common sense. It's just the rules of the House. So the rules of the House are that the big global organizations say that countries need to let people from the third world into the first world. Now, there's people from the third world coming into the first world. A Haitian migrant who flew into the U.S. under Biden program arrested for raping child at Massachusetts migrant hotel. So I think this guy's been charged multiple times. He was flown in. Last show, I covered how Mayorkas was in the government was allowing a program where 30,000 illegal immigrants were flown into the country every month, I think. And Yeah, every month, according to reports. So this guy was part of that program. He raped a young girl, a 15-year-old girl, and he was allowed into this country. And then here in my hometown, 4 arrested at unlawful entry into the U.S. at International Railroad Bridge in Buffalo. Now that means that they came from Canada, so that's not a third world country that people are coming from, but it just shows the lack of standards at our border. So is it a conspiracy theory to say that this is the cause this is the cause and this is the effect? That replacement migration being a policy would cause illegal immigrants to come into the country. I just want to ask that to the mainstream media who's saying that that's a made up thing and that it's not true. And then also, is it a conspiracy theory that, or would the World Economic Forum asking governments to make a concerted effort to silence critics, would that be the cause of somebody being misrepresented what they said because they were going against what the World Economic Forum wants people to be silenced for? I just want to point that out. So you guys, some people call it a conspiracy theory, some people call it common sense. This kind of goes along with that just because of the corruption at the top has kind of trickled down to just chaos at the bottom on the streets. So Kathy Hochul puts in all of her National Guard troops. They're doing bag checks at the subways. Man shot with his own gun after dispute on crowded New York subway train, police say. So this guy, I watched the video, the guy stands up to fight. He squares up. They were going at it, or going back and forth, just talking for a little bit. Then the guy decides, I'm going to go get my gun. So he goes over to the bench, grabs his jacket, reaches in the jacket pocket, pulls the gun, and then the video got cut off, probably because it was a graphic video. But this article says that the other guy got a hold of the gun and used it on the first guy. So, first things first, they're carrying out these bag checks. This article just proves that if you make a law or if you impose something, anyone with bad intentions is going to find a way to get around it. So, if you don't put your gun in a bag, then you can get it on the train. People are smart enough to find ways around anything. So that just proves that I don't think any imposed thing is going to stop somebody who has no care for what the law is anyway. So, and on one hand, they're imposing like bag searches with fully uniformed military members on the subway, and then on the other hand, this is James Crumbley was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Here's what happened. That's the headline. So, a 15-year-old, he might not have been 15 when he did it. He was charged when he was 15, put in prison for carrying out a mass shooting where he killed a handful of people and injured double that. It was something like 5 and 10 that were killed, 5 killed and 10 injured, something along those lines. So basically, the point is that he's the one who shot them, and the parents are getting charged with involuntary manslaughter. They purchased the gun for him. They say that he had mental health issues. the courts, they charged him, but the evidence didn't really say that there was any evidence that the parents knew that his health condition would lead to him carrying out this shooting. There was no direct evidence, so it's kind of assumption to say that they would have known that he was going to do the shooting. So, I guess the analogy would be to say, like, let's say you have a kid who has mental health issues. It's not illegal to buy that, or for them to get their license, just like it's not legal for them to get a gun. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I like to think that rules apply equally across the board. If there's a danger to driving a car, there's a danger to having a gun, or a certain level of respect that have to be had for both. So you buy a kid a car, he goes out and uses it to run over people at his school or something terrible like that. Do you then get arrested for buying him the car? The same way that the parents are going to be facing involuntary manslaughter for buying him the gun? Maybe I could see like some form of negligence being a charge, just the fact that they didn't lock it up and they didn't take precautions, but it was him who made the decision to do it ultimately. So I think that it's just unfair for them to face these charges. That's gonna ruin their lives, and I don't know. I don't know if that is the right thing to do. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know like historical law facts or any very much about like the Magna Carta or the things that our democracy is based off of. But everybody kind of has like the same, I don't know, the same idea of what's fair, and I just feel like this is unfair. So for the next section, I have Russia. Russia and NATO are basically butted right up to each other now. Ukraine is the only barrier in the region between the two, and NATO says fighter jets can carry nuclear weapons as tensions with Russia reach breaking point. So they're not saying like nuclear missiles fit in planes and that they they can carry them. They're saying you can carry them. Like you used to not bring them, now you can bring them, put them in the planes. They're saying fighter jets can carry nuclear weapons as tensions rise with Russia. So last week Putin basically said that Russia's defenses are turned on, that they are prepared for conflict. Not that they're ready for offensive conflict, but they're prepared to defend themselves and then counter-attack. But they don't feel like it's necessary. So that's where Putin came from. Now NATO turns around and escalates again. And the U.S. is also kind of involved in that escalation against Hungary and Viktor Orban, who's been depicted as diplomat or a dictator. Viktor Orban has been depicted as a dictator a lot in the media lately. Now the U.S. issues veiled threat to Hungary. Hungary, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is isolating his country from the Western community of democracies, U.S. Ambassador David Pressman claimed on Thursday in wide-reaching rebuke. So, Viktor Orban is kind of like against the Western culture, and he's being portrayed as a dictator. If you go and watch the Tucker Carlson interview with him, I thought that he had very relatable ideals as far as what he presented in that interview, and it's up for you to judge for yourself. But that's just what's happening. So that's another escalation in the region to accompany the issues in Israel, the issues in Taiwan, Korea, doing battle strategy drills and publicizing it. This is linked to the rest of it. So then this last article, Russian election, arrests for vandalism as ballot boxes targeted in Putin vote. I don't know if you've seen the videos. They're throwing Molotov cocktails at polling stations. They're dumping big things of ink down the hole into the ballot box, and you could see ink just ruin all the ballots. Today, they did call the election for Putin, so he has been elected to another term officially. I'm not sure what group carried out the attacks or whether the Russian election was fair and honest, because how could you turn around? Everyone would have to vote again. So I'm not sure if that was what occurred. But Putin has been elected to another term. There's groups messing with his election. There's groups messing with, right now, going into our election, the narrative, and then we'll see what happens on election night, or with early voting, or with the things that in most cases would be considered like a not acceptable election in other countries where we've actually stepped in and intervened in elections for some of the things that are going on, and some of the things that we orchestrated in Ukraine, some of the things that we're allowing in the United States, some of the things that are happening in Russia, or like I said the other week, Pakistan, with their cell phones and internets being cut off on election day, what we've seen in 2020 with the counting being shut down, but then they still kept counting, and then they said that they didn't, but then the votes went in anyway. So things like that we're seeing around the world, and this basically just says that their election was tampered with these attacks, and that Vladimir Putin is certain to win 6 more years in office after the vote. So that's all I have for you today. Like I said, this information, or like I say all the time, this information is crucial for people to understand. Even if my point of view is just another perspective, this information is important, and I would appreciate it if you like and share this video, and also if you subscribe to my channel so that you get notifications and can see when these come up when I make the videos. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate everyone. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. If you have links to anything, or if you want to link articles to something that either proves what I'm saying is wrong or links to an article that will help me to create the the pile I've got, or that'll help me to create the bigger picture for people. So far, these are the articles I've printed. I have different sections. I plan on maybe doing like just coverage of Gaza one day. So maybe I'll do like special reports and try and go back and detail what happened, things like that. So I'm building up to making other kinds of content more specific to things. And if you have any articles or anything that you want to say that helps me to be more accurate, I would appreciate it. But that's all I have for you today, and I thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good night.